If you've been following my blog, Pieces of My Heart, I thank you and I appreciate you joining me for this video. I always ask the Lord to give me the words, and to Him be the glory. I want to talk to you about the relevancy of the Old Testament, and I want to talk to you about Babylon. Babylon is all through the Bible, and there are a lot of prophetic words spoken over Babylon throughout the Bible. And more notably, this was the realm in which Nebuchadnezzar built and had such pride about, and God had to humble him. And there were many civilizations that were in that land prior to Babylon. And I only want to talk about a few. And it's my personal belief that everything goes back to Genesis. And you can study that out for yourself. But everything in the whole Bible, in my opinion, goes back to Genesis. So, in Genesis, you had the land of Ur, which, here's a map. This is Ur. And then you have Babylonia, or Babylon. And then you have Shinar, where the Tower of Babel was built by Nimrod. You have the Tigris and Euphrates here. Okay? And you have, if I show you a modern day map, which this is the Fertile Crescent, which is still called the Fertile Crescent in today, and you can see some recognizable places here. Assyria is talked about a lot in Bible prophecy, all the way through the Bible. So is Babylon. And you have the Tigris and Euphrates River, which began, you can begin reading about that in Genesis from the Garden of Eden. There were 4 riverheads that came out of the Garden of Eden, and 2 of them were the Tigris and Euphrates, which you can see here. This is the modern day area for it. So Babylon, all of this here is in modern day Iraq. All of that is in modern day Iraq. And so I want to talk about Ur. Ur was where Abraham lived when God called him out. Ur of the Chaldeans. Shinar was where the Tower of Babel was built by Nimrod. He had that up. He was the ruler over that area when the Tower of Babel was built. Okay, so let's go back further. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham was cursed because he looked on his father's nakedness. All of the blessings of the 3 sons were given primarily to Shem. Okay, so we're going to call Shem the blessed one. Okay, and we're going to call the cursed one Ham. Okay, from Shem, Abraham descended. From Ham, Nimrod descended. Nimrod decided to build the Tower of Babel. They all got together. They said, let's build this tower. It'll reach to the heavens and nothing will be impossible for us. And basically God came and he said, I'm going to have to divide you, or there's nothing that you won't be able to do. So he scattered all of these people by their languages. He gave them all different languages. You can read about this in Genesis 11. They were all given different languages and they were scattered across the earth. And a lot of times that's why they say babbling, because of the Tower of Babel. And this was when this happened. It was a mighty fall for Nimrod, because he was a mighty hunter. He was very powerful. He was a mighty warrior, and he led up this great, effort to make this, and then it fell. Okay, and then Abraham. Okay, so he was from the cursed lineage of Noah, and Abraham was from the blessed lineage of Noah, from Shem. He lived in Ur of the Chaldeans. Okay, so Ur, it was called Ur of the Chaldeans. The Chaldeans were Babylonians. It was previously called the land of Shinar. Shinar is where Nimrod dwelt and built the Tower of Babel. So everything goes back to Genesis. Everything, Babylon, okay, so Nimrod had pride. He had the sin of pride. He was prideful and he was arrogant, and he built this mighty, mighty tower to be high and elevated and reach to the heavens. It's the same sin that Satan had that got him cast out of heaven. Pride. And then you have Nimrod trying to reach the heavens with the Tower of Babel. Pride. Okay, and then fast forward to Babylon, and you have Nebuchadnezzar. Pride. Okay, so I'm going to read a little piece out of this book called Agents of Babylon, Dr. David Jeremiah, by Dr. David Jeremiah. And this page that I'm going to read is talking about, it's excerpts, it's talking about Daniel 4. Okay, so it talks about the king's pride. And I'm going to read this to you. And this section is based on Daniel 4, verse 28 and 29. The king's story convenes 1 year later in the Babylonian palace. He is surveying his city, and what a city it was. The New King James Version says that he was walking about his royal palace, but in actuality, the word is better translated upon, suggesting that he was walking on the roof of his palace. From this vantage point, he could see the entire city. Babylon was probably the most famous city in the ancient world. Its huge walls were 387 feet high and 85 feet wide, so wide that 4 chariots could be driven side by side along the top of them. The city itself was a perfect square, 15 miles on each side. This most powerful city of antiquity boasted wide streets, countless public buildings, and a population of 1.2 million inhabitants. The mighty Euphrates River flowed through it, and gardens, palm groves, orchards, and farmland dotted the countryside, providing enough food to feed the entire city. Gigantic shrines to the Babylonian deities were everywhere. The pinnacle of its beauty, however, had to be the marvelous, naturally air-conditioned hanging gardens Nebuchadnezzar built for his homesick wife. As Nebuchadnezzar walked along the palace terrace and viewed the magnificent cityscape, he was overcome with pride, and his heart erupted with these vain words. Is not this great Babylon that I have built for a royal dwelling, by my mighty power and for the honor of my majesty? Note the personal pronouns in his word. Every syllable drips with glory, pride, arrogance, and self-glorification. Nebuchadnezzar, like Lucifer, according to Isaiah 14, verse 12 through 14, was about to learn that God resists the proud, according to James 6. Okay, and then there's another little segment here that it talks about the king's punishment, and it's based on Daniel 4:33. While the arrogant words were in the king's mouth, there came a voice from heaven pronouncing his doom. Immediately, Nebuchadnezzar was struck with insanity. His mental disease was lycanthropy, from the Greek word lukos, meaning wolf, and the word anthropos, meaning man. Lycanthropy is a centuries-old belief whereby humans transform into wolves and back again to human form. But clinical lycanthropy is a psychiatric diagnosis of a person who believes he has become a non-human animal, not necessarily a wolf. There is no indication in Daniel 4 that Nebuchadnezzar became a certain type of animal, only that he became like a wild animal in appearance and actions. In any event, the cause was the judgment of God, and the result was the humbling of a prideful king for 7 long years. The one who had tempted Daniel and his 3 friends to eat forbidden food from the king's table now ate grass like an ox. Okay, so you can read more if you want to by getting this book, but in Daniel 4, if you read Daniel 4, you're going to get what you're looking for regarding this. So, you will see, if you read Revelation, the characteristics of the Antichrist are going to be just the same. So this is a spiritual type of the Antichrist, because you had Nimrod, who was prideful, and then came along Nebuchadnezzar, and then you're going to have the Antichrist, and they're all the same type. They all want to be high like God, or higher than God. Lucifer wanted to be higher than God. Nimrod wanted to be up to the heavens. Nebuchadnezzar was standing on the rooftop of his palace saying, "Look at all what I have built." And we all know what the Antichrist is going to do. He's going to set himself in the temple, and he's going to declare that he is God. So everything, in my opinion, goes back to Genesis, but this is very interesting if you look at it and you see what's going on today, and you see that you had the Shinar, and then you had Babylon, now you have modern day Iraq. And I fully believe that everything started in that area, and everything is going to end within that area. But I appreciate you watching, and do your research. Let me know your thoughts. Have a blessed night, and it's all about Jesus.